in a particular direction. It strikes an object and the radio wave comes back to the transmitter. And you know the time difference between the transmission and reception. This will give you the range. And the torchlight or the searchlight principle, where the radio beam rotates clockwise. Anytime it strikes, it rotates 360 degrees. Anytime it strikes the object, it will give you the direction of that particular object. This is a combination of these two is the basic radar principle on which the radars function. Any questions? Any doubts?
All good, sir.
Anybody has got any questions? Now you tell me, you know the speed of the radio wave? Now please calculate and tell me in 1 second how much will be the range of the, now when we talk about the range, you must understand we are talking about the travel of the radio wave two ways. It goes and comes back. Now give me the range of any object in case you take the time of say 1 second. How much distance will the system travel? Just do the calculation on your own, please. In 1 second, how much distance will you cover, say, in terms of nautical miles? Faster, please.
I'm sorry, sir.
Yep.
Sir, the to calculate the range, it is similar formula as we calculate the wavelength.
No. See, you know the speed of electromagnetic waves? 3 into 10 to the power 8 meters per second.
Okay.
How much is this distance? You convert this, whatever meters you are getting, into nautical miles. I said 1 second, how much distance will you cover?
81,000 nautical miles, sir.
Okay. That's right.
Faster, please, faster.
81,000 nautical miles. Miles.
Come on, yaar. How hard? Faster. Ashraf, what are you doing?
Okay, 190 nautical miles.
Huh? Okay. It comes to around 8,100 nautical miles. Right? In 1 second, the range of the object will be approximately 8,100 nautical miles. This is the basic. Now, that means time of 1 second. I'm not interested in the aircraft which is 8,100 nautical miles from me. I'm interested in the aircraft which are close by. As such, this particular time of 1 second is too large a unit as far as the radar principles are concerned. As such, we do not use in radar, we do not use the time seconds. We use a unit which is called microsecond. 1 second is equal to 10 to the power 6 microseconds. I repeat, 1 second is too large a unit as far as the radar is concerned and the radar principles are concerned. As such, we use a unit in radar which is called the microsecond. 1 second is equal to 10 to the power 6 microseconds. Now, please tell me how much distance will a radio wave cover in 1 microsecond?
Microsecond. Speed of light. One microsecond.
Hello, sir. Your biryani right comes soon.
I'm taking a class
Online.
online.
All yours.
Do I have to pay $5? You mentioned that in that message of yours.
Joking, sir. Grab. Okay, I'm putting Swedish in your fridge.
Please do that, sir.
Just can be great.
150 nautical miles, sir. Hello?
All the students are there.
Sure. So the book is a couple of students, not all.
Oh, okay.
We do not even know.
I know. See you, sir.
Sure. Thanks, sir.
You're welcome. You eat beef, no, sir? The next time with beef. Shall I close the door?
No. Leave it open.
The AC is on, sir.
Huh?
The AC is on.
Yeah, AC, I switch it off. Yeah, there.
Switch it off.
Yeah. Come on now.
150 nautical miles.
Huh? Nani?
150.
In 1 microsecond, how much distance will you cover in meters?
Oh, in meters.
It's
Yeah, sorry, sir. 150 meters.
No, it should not be 150 meters. 10 to the power 6. One, two, four, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 divided by 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you are left with 300 only. 3, 8 zeros divided by 1, 6 zeros. 1 microsecond, 1 second is equal to 10 to the power 6 microseconds.
microsecond.
Shouldn't you divide that by 2, sir? No, is it?
No, I'm not talking about the range at the moment. I'm talking about what much distance will a radio wave cover in 1 microsecond.
Oh, okay.
Range will
Sorry
be
about that.
150, you're right. Absolutely correct. But otherwise, the distance covered will be 300 meters.
Noted, sir.
Right? Now, one more point before I continue with the classes. I would like a feedback from you people. How are these classes? Are they beneficial to you, or it's just a passage of time or something like that? Whether, especially radio, I would like to know, in case it is of any use to you people, this particular so-called online classes. So I want a feedback from you, not now, maybe later, anytime. Right? Now, this is what we are talking about.
Sir, I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, I give you control. Right now, I'm opening the notes. Can you take control of that and show us where's the part of the notes that we discussing?
Hello, I can't hear you. Can you speak again, please?
Okay. Hold on. Moment. Okay, sir. Currently, I sharing the notes on the screen.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm giving you a control here. Have you see a notification say that I permitting your control to control my screen?
Okay.
Okay, can you scroll down and use this note to show where's the part of the note that we are discussing right now? You can use your mouse to control.
No, it's not moving.
It's not moving, eh? Okay, so you're controlling it now. Okay, can you scroll down?
Can you do the scrolling, because I can't. My screen is not moving at all. Whatever is there,
Okay.
it's not moving. I'm doing the scroll up and down, both.
Okay, have you received notification saying that I'm giving you control to control the screen? Oh, you know. Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Can
Okay,
you hear
so
me
you
now?
are
Yeah,
yes, sir.
we can hear.
You can. Okay, so you're controlling the screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you want on the screen now?
No, sir. So you can giving us the lecture using the screen. You can show us where's the part of the notes that we are discussing.
Okay. Now, from the
Okay.
very beginning, I have told you regarding the basic radar principle.
Correct, sir.
Now, this basic radar principle, when we talk about, there are two aspects involved. One is the range, the distance, and the other is the bearing. The range
Yes,
is measured by the normal echo principle, and the bearing is by a principle which is called the searchlight principle, where you rotate the radio beam from a transmitter on the ground 360 degrees in a clockwise manner. And when this beam comes across a particular object in any particular direction, that direction is indicated onto the screen of the chap who's controlling the radar on the ground. So he knows that that particular person who's sitting on the ground on the radar screen will know the range and the bearing of a particular object. And this is exactly what we want in radar. We should know where you actually aircraft are in the. Now these particular, when we talk about the echo, etc., the echoes coming back should be reasonably strong. So as such, you have to have the transmitter which is quite powerful. Otherwise, the echoes will not come back. And if the if the object happens to be too far away from you, even then the echoes will not come back. So these are the couple of things which are to be indicated. Now, now we talk about the timing, we talk about 1 second. As such, 1 second is too large a unit as far as the radar principles are concerned. As such, we use a unit which is called microsecond. 10 to the power 6 is equal to 1 second. As such, the radio wave will cover a distance of 300 meters in 1 microsecond. When we talk about the range of the object, it is always divided by 2 because the radio wave travels both 2 ways. Once it goes up to the particular object and then comes back thereafter. As such, we have the radar principle or echo principle. We have to divide this by 2. Any questions so far?
Good, sir.
Sorry, sir, can you repeat what is divided by 2 again?
See, because if you say you have an object, you have an aircraft which is 300, say, 2 nautical miles from you. The radio will travel 2 miles up, strike the object, and come back. Now the radio wave has traveled actually 4 miles, but the range of the object is only 2 miles, 2 nautical miles. As such, we have to divide the timing, whatever time is taken in between the transmission and the reception, you have to divide this by 2 to get the actual range of the object. Very important aspect in radar is the timing is to divide it by 2. Time between the transmission and the reception is to be divided by 2 to get the exact location or the range of that particular object. Is this understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Anybody in doubt
Yes,
as
sir.
far as the basic radar principle is concerned? The timing is always divided by 2. Then we use what are the various applications of the particular radar. We know air traffic controls has these radars. The Met has these radar. You have on board the aircraft which is called the airborne weather radar, etc., etc., etc. These all are the various uses of the ATC uses this aircraft especially to identify or know your location. It helps you in the bad weather conditions. It can bring you down to the ground level, etc., etc. And as far as we will discuss when we talk about the basic principle of the radar, we talk about the so-called radar frequencies now. Why do we use a particular radar frequency? Bearing measurement is with the torchlight principle. Time unit, we said microseconds. Radar applications, and then radar frequencies. Now, when we talk about the frequencies of the radar, basically, we use very high frequencies in radar. Any guess, any reasons can you tell me why do we use high frequencies in radar? Anybody in the class can please try and throw some light. Why do we use the so-called high frequencies in radar?
Clearer communication, less attenuation.
No, basically, when we want the basic requirement in the radar is that your radar screen should stay as clean as possible. We discussed in our previous classes, as far as the static is concerned, or unwanted noise is concerned, or unwanted radio waves are concerned, they are more predominant in the lower frequencies. Higher the frequency, lesser is the static. Though attenuation happens to be more, as such, your radar ranges are reduced considerably, but we prefer this because we do not want any screen of my radar to be these frequencies are free from efficient beam and radar, obviously. Now, in radar, there's a requirement that the beam should be as narrow as possible. The radar beam or the radio beam which is being transmitted from a particular source should be as narrow as possible. Can anybody in the class tell me why? Why the beam? When we talk about the frequencies, this also relates to the type of beam. The higher the frequency, the narrower will be the beam. This is one of the basic requirements of a radar, that the beam should be as narrow as possible. Why? My question is.
To get a very efficient for target discrimination and bearing measurement.
No, one of the reason is that the energy is concentrated into a very, very narrow area. The complete energy, if you have a beam which is wider, which is quite open, then obviously that will be spread into a wider area. If the beam is very narrow, suppose, for example, you take two torches, one with a very big head, one with a very narrow head. At night time, you light both the torches and send them into the atmosphere. You'll find the chap with has got a narrow beam is much more brighter than the beam which is larger. Same is applicable to in this case also. Number two, when the beam is rotating in the atmosphere, when the radar beam is rotating in the atmosphere, if the beam is wider, there is a possibility that you might pick up 2 or 3 aircraft at one beam will pick up at any given time. If you pick up 2 or 3 aircraft on the radar screen of the controller, they will be reflected as only one object. So I would prefer if my beam picks up only one aircraft, because this is a very dangerous situation. If I have 3 aircraft, but on my screen showing only one aircraft, this can be a very dangerous situation as far as the frequencies are concerned. Why? The reason why we use higher frequencies in radar is to make the beam as narrow as possible, so that your beam should pick up only one aircraft at any given time. Any questions so far?
No, sir.
Now, if you have noticed that the most important aspect of a radar is the timing action. The time you radiate the energy and the time you receive the energy back. Now, if you have a radio wave which we call as a continuous radio wave. From a radar transmitter, you transmit a beam radio energy which is constant, a continuous wave radar. If you have this beam continuous, that means as far as your receiver is concerned, the receiver will, you keep transmitting one particular beam and the same beam keeps coming back. As such, the timing of the transmission and the reception is, the receiver is unable to identify which part of the beam has just come back. As such, this particular so-called continuous wave transmission is not feasible, will not serve any useful purpose as far as the radar transmission is concerned. As such, we transmit the radio energy in form of pulses. First of pulses, transmit, stop, transmit, stop, transmit, stop, transmit, stop. We transmit the radio energy in form of pulses. Now the receiver can easily identify which particular pulse has come back now. You can give them number, you can give them any identification. So pulse 1, pulse 2, pulse 3, pulse 4, pulse 5, pulse 6. Now the receiver can identify pulse 6 was transmitted at so and so time and pulse 6 has come back on so and so time. That means the time difference between the transmission and reception is very relevant to find the range of the object. This is the basic principle or the echo principle on which the radar functions. Continuous wave system will not work in this because we are unable to, or the receiver is unable to identify which part of the radio wave has come back now. As such, we don't transmit in form of a continuous wave. We transmit the radio energy in form of pulses. And each pulse has got a duration, which is called the pulse length or the pulse width. Very important aspect, you must understand this. What is a pulse length and a pulse width? Pulse length and pulse width is the same thing, is the duration of the pulse. And this is in microseconds. Right? This pulse length, the length of a particular pulse is in microseconds. If I say the pulse length is 3 microseconds, what does it mean? The pulse length of the pulse is 3 microseconds. Now we say we measure the length of the pulse or the duration of the pulse. We transmit 1 pulse, 2 pulse, 3 pulse, 4 pulse. Each pulse has got a duration, has got a length. Now you tell me how much distance will you cover in 3 microseconds? Come on, faster now. You can answer this.
100 meter.
A bit louder, please.
100 meter.
100. Why? How much distance do you cover in 1 microsecond?
100 meter. No?
300.
100 meters.
300.
Did I say 300 meters?
300 meter.
300 meters.
Yeah.
Hmm.
In 3 microseconds, how much distance will you cover then?
900.
900. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
What would be the range of the object if the pulse length is 900?
450.
450.
450. Exactly. Absolutely correct. 450 would be the range of the object. Now, please note that pulse number 1 is transmitted from the radar. Unless pulse number 1 comes back, pulse number 2 does not go. You have transmitted pulse number 1. This pulse has gone, struck the object and has come back. Unless this pulse comes back, pulse number 2 is not transmitted. Now, I want to manufacture, that means if I want to manufacture a radar, or I'll say the minimum range of the radar is defined by the pulse length. The minimum range of the radar is defined by its pulse length. Now, you tell me, if I want to manufacture a radar which has got a minimum range of 2 kilometers, what should be my pulse length or pulse width?
4,000.
2 kilometers is the minimum range. I said the minimum range is defined by the pulse length and the pulse width. Unless pulse number 1, which has been transmitted, unless it comes back, pulse number 2 will not go. Two kilometers is your range.
4,000 meter.
I beg your pardon?
4,000 meter.
I want you to tell me, I want to manufacture a radar with the minimum range of 2 kilometers. What should be my pulse length or the pulse width? Before you go into this, just note down, distance is equal to speed into time. Distance is equal to speed into time.
Is it 13 microseconds, sir?
13.
Yes, sir.
How have you come to this conclusion, sir?
I just took 2000, multiplied it by 2, and then divided by 300, I think.
Yes.
So I got,
2000 multiplied by 2,
yeah,
divided by 300.
divided by 300. So I got around
That's right.
13 microseconds.
Yeah, that's correct. That means the pulse width of this particular radar, where you have the minimum range of 2 kilometers, should have a pulse length or the pulse width of 13.5 microseconds. Isn't it? Has the class understood this?
Yes, sir.
Anybody in doubt in this? I can explain this again. Very important, because these are the numericals which you're likely to get in the exam also. So you have to be slightly clear in your heads as far as this aspect is concerned. This is called the pulse technique, and we transmit the radio energy in form of pulses. Each pulse is identified so that we know, the system knows what is the difference between the time difference between the transmission and the reception. As far as the echo principle is concerned, basically what you require is the time interval between the transmission and reception. Knowing the speed of electromagnetic waves, we can find out the difference and further divide that by 2 to get the range of a particular object. Now I want, say, for example, if my pulse length is 5 suppose my pulse length is 5 microseconds. What is the range of, or what is the minimum range of that particular object? If my pulse length is 5 microseconds.
$3,000, sir.
I beg your pardon?
3,000.
No, it won't be. It should not be. If the total time is 5 microseconds, how much distance will you cover in 5 microseconds?
1,500.
500.
1,500.
1,500.
5 microseconds. How much the
1,500.
distance will, total distance will you cover?
1,500.
5 into 500, 5 into 3. 300 into 5.
1,500.
Huh?
1,500.
Why 2,500? 5 into 300.
1,500.
Yeah, that becomes 1,500.
Yes.
Yes.
1,500 divided by 2 becomes 750.
750.
750 meters should be the range of that particular object. Is this clear, please, everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Clear, sir.
Anybody having a slightest doubt as far as this aspect is concerned? The distance covered and the range is always divided by 2. 1 microsecond, you cover a distance of 300 meters, and the pulse length or the pulse width is normally in microseconds. Unless this wave comes back, the pulse number 2 will not go. Number of such pulses transmitted in 1 second is called PRR, pulse recurring rate. Number of such pulses transmitted in 1 second is called PRR. Suppose the radar transmits 500 pulses, the PRR is 500. If you transmit 1000 pulses, the PRR is 1000 pulses, right? Now, if the PRR of a radar happens to be 1000 pulses per second, how much time one pulse will take? I repeat, number of pulses transmitted in 1 second is 1000. That is called the PRR, pulse recurring rate or pulse recurring frequency. Both are the same, meaning the same thing, either pulse recurring frequency or the pulse recurring rate. Now, if I transmit from a particular radar 1000 pulses, what is the time taken by one pulse? Come on, answer this fast.
1000 microsecond.
I beg your pardon?
Wait.
Think and answer this question very fast.
Zero 0.001 microsecond.
What is 1,000? If I transmit 1000 pulses in 1 second, what is the duration of one pulse? Time taken by one pulse obviously will be 1 upon 1000.
So your
Yes,
line
sir.
is breaking, sir.
If I transmit 1000 pulses in 1 second, how much
Like-
time will it take for one pulse to be transmitted?
1000
1 upon 1000
microseconds.
microseconds, 1 upon 1000 seconds?
1000 microseconds, sir.
Yes. So that is different. But that will come to later. But as far as the time is concerned, when we talk about the timing, when we talk about one pulse, how much time does it take for one pulse to be transmitted? You transmit, or you will be transmitting 1 upon 1000. Time will be.
Sir, we can't hear you.
Hello. Can you hear me all right?
Your line's breaking, sir.
We couldn't hear you, sir.
Any more questions, please?
No question, sir.
Because no, I can't see your face. Only at least on one side, I got the class leader and my face only.
Sir, we can't hear you clearly, sir.
I want to see the complete class, please. The complete book is there in front of me. So I actually have got the book with me. I don't read it on my screen. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Now, when do you have the next class?
Sorry, sir, can't hear you, sir.
Day after tomorrow.
Next class is on Wednesday. Same timing.
On Wednesday at again 11:30.
Yes, sir.
You'll be sending me the so-called
The link
contact
again.
details so that I can click on that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
After you make the arrangements, see that I get the information on time. Like today, we got delayed because of I think it was old one.
Okay, sir.
To send me on time or so that I can take the class at 11:30 on day after tomorrow.
Okay, sir. Sure.
Any questions, please? Anything?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir. All good.
No, all good, sir.
So far so good.
Just hold on a minute. I just want to see if there is any improvement as far as the quality of voice is concerned. I put the mic on.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Jai, mute dulu Jai.
Yeah, are you wearing earphone?
It's better now. Can you hear me?
Still
But
lagging.
your
I can hear you
voice is
better.
the voice
Your
is
voice is
breaking up.
breaking.
Oh. Breaking. Hello. Can you hear me now?
It's the
Yes,
same,
we can
sir.
hear you, but still the voice is breaking.
Maybe if you have any running application that using internet, you can close it down first. Izam suruh habiskan kelawar.
Aku rasa seorang kena call dia lah.
Dia dah keluar ke?
Dia dah keluar ke?
Dah keluar dah.
Ya,
Dia pun tak dapat.
Aku tahu. Jap.
Azim, tolong share screen buat calculation yang latest tu. Please.
Kita gua hantar.
Korang buka.
Tengah buat
Yang tu korang buka ni tu. Korang buka page 6.
Asyik ngantuk.
Dalam kelas ngantuk, online kelas pun ngantuk.
Mula-mula aku nak tengok aku punya slide yang ni. Lepas tu bila dah ada share screen kat sini, aku fokus ni. Lepas tu dia tak bergerak pula.
Kau tengok ni tu. Page 6. Page 6. Korang buka slide korang page 6.
Wednesday.
Oh, habis dah? Asal tu mute aku. Wajar gila.
Korang buka ni tu. Page 6.
Pukul 10 lah macam biasa.
So I will arrange the class later the same time 11:30.
Okay.
Like
You,
today.
so that I have the so-called the thing on time, so that like today it was, I think by mistake it was last time's. That's why I couldn't connect it.
Okay, I see. It's okay, sir. It's just a technical issue. So hopefully it will not happen again in future.
Okay. And number two, I want the voice to be back. And number one, I don't want this book to be on the screen. I want you people to be on the screen. Because book I have got with me.
No, sir. The thing is, usually in the class, you will display the book in the screen, right? So we know which part that we're discussing.
As you wish, in case it's okay with you people, I don't mind, right?
Okay. Yes, sir. But so that's why.
Hello?
Hello, sir. You can hear? Hello.
Hello? Can
Hello.
you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, then Wednesday morning we meet again.
Okay.
10 minutes before the time, 5 minutes before the timing.
Sure.
We'll start.
Sure.
I'll start the class at 11:30.
Sure, sir. So as usual.
Any technical advice you want to give us in today's meeting, whatever went wrong?
I think that's it. So as I mentioned earlier, I think it's preferable if we can look at the notes, because that's then we can know where's the part of the note that we are discussing.
We'll try and improve that next time.
Sure, sir. Because usually that's what we're practicing in the class, right? We look at the screen where you display the notes. Actually, there's some sort of setting where you also at the same time you can see all of us beside using the notes. So I think maybe we can look at that in the future.
Because see, I've got the notes with me.
Okay.
You got the notes with you.
Yeah.
So we can actually, you need not have the notes on the screen. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, sir. But that's why, I mean, sometimes we kind of lost.
But if you prefer, if you want them on the screen, you can do that. No harm.
Okay, sure. Sir. Okay. So is there anything?
Just give me the suggestion to see that we can improve upon this system. And next week, in case, because see, I have a feeling that we might be isolated for certain more time, even beyond 15th of April, actually.
Yes,
what
sir.
we are getting the news is that it may be extended further.
Yes, sir. That's what we're thinking, the same thing.
So in case next week onwards we can have the classes more frequently, I want to finish the syllabus before you come back.
Sure. Okay, so basically I'm broadcasting our call right now in the in the chat, in the video conference. So is there anything else you want to talk with all of us? You can say right now.
No, nothing. I just want to share with you people that just in case you have any suggestions regarding the whatever we had meeting today, whatever the drawbacks are, you please let us know so that we can improve upon them. That's all.
Habis.
Weh, bodoh.
Oi,
Tutup dulu
senyaplah, Man.
mic tu.
Dawan dengar tu. Oi, Dawan dengar tu.
Okay. I can hear some laughter in the background.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Have fun. Have a good time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Man.
Aduh.
Thank you
so much.
Man, bodoh simpan, bodoh.
Dengar tu.
Dalam ikut.
Bodoh main kau ni.
Bahagia semua orang kan.
Iyalah, mute lah kau punya mic tu.
Dia tak sedar gitu aku rasa. Serius.
Mic kita buka sendiri. Tak sedar tak kan?
Otak kau orang tengah call kot.
Bodoh Man.
Tadi saya cakap apa? Kuat bodoh Man.
Wah Man, kuat gila Man.
Kau dengan Iman sama.
Ingat betul nampak dia cakap tadi. Okay, you guys have fun, dia cakap. Masa saya nampak
yelah, kau gelak macam orang gila.
Kejut aku. Aku tengah fokus nak dengar cakap apa bodoh lah.
Lawak.
Apa babi yang lawak?
Lawak anak buah kau tak payah share kat sini.
Share the joke ya.
Nanti kau dengar balik Man, Azim tak habis record lagi.